All right, if you've seen all the other videos I've done for elimination, you have seen probably a variety of what happens when you have opposite pairs already, what happens when you have the same pairs of variables, and what happens when you have one variable that can be changed into another variable. What we're now going to look at is probably what has to be the hardest of all of the options, which is when you have to change both of the equations. So when we're looking at this, again, we want to make sure that first off, we check x's are on top of x's, y's are on top of y's, constants are on top of constants. If they're not, make sure that you set that up so that they are in the exact same spots of each other so that you can do this appropriately. Now, when I look at the x's and I'm trying to eliminate something, the x's are not opposite pairs. They're not even the same numbers. So I can't easily add them together and get rid of the x's. Same thing happens with the y's. -5 and a -2 are not easily able to eliminate because you can't add them together and get 0. And they're not the same. So if I changed the sign on one of them, I wouldn't be able to eliminate that as either. So I can't just make one of them turn into the other easily without using decimals. And I want to use nice numbers because that's really the easiest part of this, is to make nice numbers. So what I am going to do is I'm going to try to find something they both have in common. So I'm looking at 3 and 5. If one of them's positive, one of them's negative, that obviously has to happen first. And again, this is where you can decide whether you want to get rid of the x or you want to get rid of the y. Just because x is first, that's the only reason why I'm going to get rid of the x. So I know that 15 is something that they both have in common, so I can multiply both of these numbers and get 15. So in order for me to get 15, I'm going to multiply the top equation by 5, because 5 times 3, and I'm trying to get rid of x, 5 times 3 gives me 15. So if I multiply the whole top equation by 5, then in order for me to get a -15 on the bottom, I'd have to multiply the entire bottom by a -3, because -3 times a +5 would make -15x. So what I am going to do here is I am just going to, next to this, rewrite the equation as its new setup. So 5 times 3x is 15x. 5 times a -5y is -25y. And then it equals 5 times 7, which is 35. Whoops. All right, so that's that. So we've gotten that one taken care of. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing on the bottom one, but just multiply it by the -3. -3 times a +5x is going to give me -15x. -3 times a -2y would give me a +6y. And then -3 times a -1 gives me a +3. Now that I have that, now they have been rearranged, and what I am going to do is now add vertically these numbers, and then these numbers. 15 minus 15 is 0. That was what we were trying to go for. We're trying to get rid of the x values, so we did. And now I'm just going to take the other two numbers and I'm going to do them as well. So we're going to have a -25 plus 6, and we're going to add those together and we're going to get -19y. And then here we've got 35 plus 3, and we're going to add that together and we're going to get 38. Get y by itself by dividing both sides by the -19. And we're going to get y is equal to a -2. So that is my first coordinate. So we've solved for y, and we've gotten that situated. Now I got to go plug it back into one of the two original equations. It does not make a difference which one you choose. You get to do whatever one you want. You're going to have to make sure that it works for both of them anyway, so just keep that in mind afterwards. I'm just going to go with the top one. Again, it doesn't really make a difference. You will still get the same answer. So you'll still figure out what x is based off of this with your equation that you choose. So we're going to substitute. We get 3x minus 5, or y is -2, so I'm going to replace that with a -2 in parentheses, is equal to 7. So now I'm going to go ahead, multiply what I've got. Negative 5 times negative 2 is a positive 10. We got 3x plus 10 equals 7. We're going to subtract 10 on both sides. You're going to end up with 3x. 7 minus 10 is a negative 3. And then you're going to divide both sides by the 3 to get x alone. X is equal to negative 3 divided by positive 3, which is a negative 1. I've got both of the coordinates that I do need, so I'm going to write that in coordinate form as my finalized answer. X comma y, and that is my finalized answer. Again, for video purposes, I am not going to show you the substitution into the other equation, but you do want to make sure that these two coordinates, when plugged into this equation, also make it true. And if you want more questions like this, you can find them on my YouTube channel, You Want Algebra. Check these out under the Systems of Equations elimination section.